Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're going to unpack a truly fascinating geopolitical reality today. We're looking at how the Vatican actually transformed from, simply issuing moral warnings into acting hard, punitive laws to curb the excesses of unregulated artificial intelligence. This isn't some science fiction debate. It's a very real, very present legal crusade against what the Church views as literally the most complex danger of the 21st century. We're starting our investigation right in the middle of a stunning anomaly. Picture this. It's June 14, 2024. The Pope arrives by helicopter in Apulia, Italy. The leaders of the planet's absolute most powerful economies, presidents like Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron, actually stand up to receive him. But here's the thing. He didn't crash this G7 summit to discuss traditional theology or spiritual peace. No, he was there to issue an urgent, direct warning to the global tech community about a massive, looming technological crisis. He told them, technical progress without moral boundaries is not evolution, it is submission. And that right there perfectly distills their worldview right now. They look at the rapid deployment of unregulated algorithms and they see a fundamental threat to the human condition. They're essentially arguing that if we let technology rewrite the rules of humanity without any ethical guardrails, we aren't evolving at all. We are simply submitting to the machine. Let's take a look at the timeline, because this reveals a brilliantly silent strategy. Notice that date right at the top, February 2020. That is long before the massive public explosion of ChatGPT in late 2022. While Western governments were honestly barely even debating tech laws, the Vatican was successfully maneuvering alongside tech giants like Microsoft and IBM. It's just wild to realize that this millennia-old institution saw the writing on the wall years in advance of Silicon Valley, leading to hard legislative and doctrinal actions by late 2024 and early 2025. So out of that early 2020 meeting with tech executives and religious leaders emerged a pioneering legal concept. It anchors the Vatican's entire crusade, and they call it Algor-ethics. Simply put, it's a dedicated ethical and legal framework explicitly designed to ensure that algorithms remain in the service of humanity. It is essentially a proactive defense mechanism against subjugation. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophical argument from their January 2025 doctrine, which is titled Antiqua et Nova. The Vatican makes a really sharp theological and anthropological distinction here. They say human intelligence is a combination of ratio, which is analytical reason, and intellectus, intuitive and moral judgment. Machine intelligence, on the other hand, it only possesses ratio. So the Vatican is warning us that confusing cold data processing with actual, genuine human wisdom is the absolute greatest anthropological error of our era. Section 1. The Pope's 3 red lines. Let's dive right into the 3 immediate, tangible threats the Pope laid out directly to those world leaders at the G7 summit. First, in warfare, military target selection software eliminates human compassion, reducing human life to just a cold statistical probability. Second, he warned of a technocratic paradigm. This is where deepfakes and polarizing algorithms destroy politics, literally stripping away free will and turning citizens into manipulable products. And third, regarding labor, he warned that replacing workers without a safety net totally undermines the dignity of work. It creates what the Church calls a massive throwaway culture, while massively widening the gap between the billionaire owners of the code and the rest of humanity. This haunting demand captures their crucial point perfectly. No machine should ever choose to take the life of a human being. The Pope explicitly called for a global ban on lethal autonomous weapons. By pointing directly to the ongoing realities of automated drones in modern conflicts, the Vatican is desperately trying to highlight the catastrophic moral failure of automating war. Section 2. Decree DCCII, the Vatican law. Now, if you thought the Church was only interested in issuing soft moral advice or philosophical doctrines, well, this next revelation is going to completely shatter your preconceptions. Effective January 1, 2025, the Pontifical Commission transformed the Vatican city-state into a strict regulatory zone by passing Decree No. DCCII. They outright outlawed 4 specific uses of AI within their borders. First, subliminal manipulation that alters behavior? Banned. Social scoring systems? Absolutely prohibited. Any discriminatory inference that excludes the disabled is completely forbidden. And perhaps most strikingly, they instituted a judicial veto. This means while AI can organize files, it is explicitly forbidden from analyzing evidence or drafting legal rulings. That function remains exclusively 100% reserved for a human magistrate. And to prove this wasn't just decorative legislation meant for good PR, the decree actually mandated the creation of an artificial intelligence commission composed of exactly 5 experts. Chaired by the Secretariat General of the Governato, their mandate is incredibly strict.
They are literally tasked with ruthlessly auditing every single line of code used by the Vatican administration, its health services, and its official media outlets.
Section 3. A blueprint for humanity.
So you might be wondering, geopolitically speaking, why does the absolute smallest state in the world enacting tech laws actually matter to the rest of us? Well, the geopolitical reality is a stark contrast. While global superpowers like the US and the European Union are busy drafting regulations primarily focused on protecting economic markets, managing copyright, and securing corporate patents, the Vatican has stepped up as this totally unexpected pioneer. They've created the only legal framework explicitly designed from a purely anthropological perspective. Their primary goal isn't to save corporate economies, it's to protect human integrity from the machine.
As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to recognize that the Vatican's push for algor-ethics and strict regulation isn't born out of some fear of the future. It's born out of a deep historical realism. They're forcing the world to look at the real ethical consequences of this industry. And they leave us to face this deeply uncomfortable truth. Without strict moral boundaries, we are walking blindly into submission. So we all have to ask ourselves, will the destiny of humanity be decided by a profit maximization algorithm? Definitely something to think about as you interact with the algorithms in your own life today.